been separated from their parents, what those children want is to be back with their family.
Protests in Dallas tonight against the Trump administration for separating illegal immigrant families detained at the border.
A close call for two officers from the Colony Police Department when they were hit in this intersection while responding to a call.
Here for you, first at 9. Fox 4 News starts now.
Good evening. I'm Clarice Tinsley.
And I'm Brandon Todd. A former doctor turned rapist has been arrested for an attack on a woman back in 1988. She was choked and raped in her Highland Park apartment.
She recently died. The medical examiner says it was because of her injuries 30 years ago. Now the suspect is charged with capital murder. Fox 4's Allison Harris has more from the Lew Sterrett Justice Center, where the suspect is being held. Allison.
Clarice and Brandon, this crime was originally considered a sexual assault and choking until the victim died earlier this year, and the medical examiner ruled it a homicide from that trauma 3 decades ago. Within months, detectives have been able to make this arrest for capital murder, and his own history reveals that he is a serial assaulter. Former Dr. George Guo, a graduate of UT Southwestern Medical School, is behind bars in Dallas, held on a $5 million bond for a crime he's accused of committing 30 years ago. An affidavit states that in 1988, Guo sexually assaulted and strangled then 28-year-old Catherine Basconi in her Highland Park apartment on Abbott Avenue, an area where the homes and apartments have since been renovated. The affidavit states that due to her strangulation, Basconi suffered a brain injury, which left her blind, mostly confined to bed for the rest of her life. After she passed away in February, a medical examiner ruled her death a homicide due to complications from the assault, and Highland Park police reopened the case, this time as a murder.
We're dealing with a charge of capital murder. It's not just going to be a one-off shop that's going to do the entire investigation.
Highland Park Police enlisted the help of the Dallas County District Attorney's Office Cold Case Team, which is funded by a federal grant called the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. Prosecutor Leighton leads the team.
That's something that Dallas County didn't have 3 or 4 years ago.
The affidavit states that the team resubmitted DNA evidence from the crime and, using DNA technology that wasn't even available 30 years ago, found a match for Guo's DNA profile. Investigators arrested Guo in Houston Wednesday, where he'd been living.
I won't say all, but most of these cold cases are going to be either solved or it's going to be that one, important piece of evidence that gets us over the line.
Guo has a history of assault after his alleged attack on Basconi in '88. The affidavit states that in 1990, a 19-year-old SMU student called 911, and Highland Park police interrupted Guo as he was dressed in all black, tying her up and beginning to sexually assault the student. And the affidavit says Guo was also caught in 2001 near Houston during a burglary and attempted sexual assault, again wearing all black clothing, entering the premises during early morning hours and stalking the victim prior to committing his offense. He was released from prison in 2013 as a registered sex offender. Dallas County District Attorney Faith Johnson is elated by his arrest.
We will not give up until we get to that point that we find who we need to find and we do what we need to do, and then we can vigorously prosecute.
We contacted Guo's attorney for comment on this story, but have not heard back. We also contacted the Basconi family. They do not wish to comment for this story. Clarice and Brandon.
Allison, thank you. Dozens